What's up, family? Welcome back to the Stop Sinking Show, where we go from struggle to flow. I'll start today with a story I heard on a Tim Ferriss podcast that will serve as a basis for our discussion today. The story starts off with the speaker, Terry Real, who is a family therapist and a teacher, talking about him visiting an ethnic group called Maasai in a remote part of Tanzania. He was around a group of people who are real warriors, referred to locally as the Morani, for warrior. He went on a run for 4 days with a group of elders talking about everything. And he brings up a topic that in the Western world, there is a debate of what makes a good man. So he phrased this question asking them, what makes a good Morani, a good warrior? Some people say a good Morani is sensitive and thoughtful and kind. Some people say a good Morani is fierce, tough, no bullshit. And he asked them, what do you think? Which one is it? And one of the elders looks at him, says, I have no interest in talking to you about what makes a good Morani. I could care less. But I will talk to you about what makes a great Morani, a great warrior. He says, when the moment calls for fierceness, a good Morani will kill you. Don't mess with them. When the moment calls for tenderness, a good Morani will lay down his sword and shield and will be as sweet as a baby. A great Morani, though, he says, a great warrior, is a man who knows which moment is which. When to be fierce, when to be sweet. This story resonates with me, and I'm sure with many men who were raised to be tough men, to curb their feelings, to bury their emotions. These are what we are taught as acceptable masculine traits. By the age of 3 or 4, most young boys learn that they cannot express their emotions the same way as their female siblings, mainly because it is not accepted. It is verbally beaten out of them and replaced with the idea that they must not cry like a girl, that they must control their emotions. To do the opposite would be feminine and not the way a boy should act. So, from a very young age as boys to grown men, we learn that our feelings are not meant for public display, almost as if no one cares about our feelings, and we are instead only meant to play our masculine roles. And in the world we live in today, where even romantic relationships require more emotional connection than marriages or partnerships have ever had in the past, my parents did not even have an emotional connection, but they stayed married for over 40 plus years, fulfilling their duties, their roles. When survival is at stake, that patriarchal tough it out upbringing might have been acceptable because there's no demand for softness when you are fighting for survival. But most of us in the modern world do not have the same struggle with privation or danger. And the nature of our relationships demand way more from us today. They demand us to be whole, complete humans with a spectrum of emotions. And this is something that resonates with me for not any small reason, because I'm no stranger myself to having to shut out my feelings and to show up to life regardless. I don't think any man would tell you different. Even as abundant as we are today in society, what it takes to provide and be the one who is relied upon is not a small thing. I heard Joey jokingly say to his girl, "You're a girl, you have no idea how I'm keeping this house up and running." Now, it's not lost on me that in the Western world, this is not a gender discussion. Many women today are heads of households, and contribute just as much, if not more, to keep the house running, which only helps the point that as a man, more is required from you today than just to be the staunch, hard-nosed guy who keeps it all together, because you have help today to keep it together. At least monetarily, you're still required by your physical prowess to be the one who defends your family from any harm or danger. And ancient biology has not changed enough in our brain where you are free from making the woman in your life feel safe. Only then can she really trust you and feel comfortable to raise a family together. The problem is that we take what we were taught and don't expose ourselves enough to nuance, to broaden our thinking and our approach to life, which is why they say any strength overextended becomes a weakness. Any thinking, philosophy, or pattern of behavior carried out too far in one direction actually does more work to erode your foundation than to build it. If you are not using the two-way traffic the world is providing you to adjust and administer change within the deepest parts of your psyche, then you cannot expect to find happiness and fulfillment. You cannot build a functional life without adapting and matching the needs of your current environment today. The sad reality, though, is many of us, including myself, are sons of an angry, depressed father who also was the son of an angry, depressed father. And unless you want your children to also have the same story that you have, then you cannot yourself become or stay an angry, depressed father, an angry, depressed man, or the generational trauma continues. At any given moment, you must read the room, read the circumstances, and from one breath to another, adjust your approach to what is required as fast as the next breath visits you. I just landed in India after a 16-hour flight because my father had passed unexpectedly and I have to come and manage things. And while I was on the plane, I had this realization that I posted online. There is no room for mourning the life you leave behind at the call of duty. As a man, this is what I have to do now. And I literally have no room, no space in which I can sit and take up time to mourn the difficulty I am up against and the ease I may have left behind. In these moments, I have to be what was taught to me and fight against survival. In the same breath, though, I am sitting next to my mother, who requires to be spoken to softly, which I fail at all the time. But I notice the need for it and the pain I cause that I notice on her face. In one moment, I might have to be hard on myself, have to simmer the fire in my own heart and stuff down my emotions. In the very next breath, I have to be emotionally available to meet someone where they are in their mental and emotional space. And there is no room to mess this up either. My mother doesn't have the luxury of surrounding herself with the softness her daughters might be able to provide her. And her daughters shouldn't have to stiffen up and kill their own heart to run around and provide for her either. That's not the role God intended for them. And they provide for her plenty from where they are. And past a certain point, maybe even more than me. And past a certain point, they hand over that duty to me. And of course, past a certain point for me, I may also pass my responsibility back to them to support her emotionally, because there are just some things I cannot do, cannot say. But for the most part, I have to toe this balance, or one of us is bound to suffer. My romantic relationships require the same balance from me, although my failure at being able to do this has costed me greatly. Because past a certain point, I don't even attempt to be in touch with my feelings. I try not to go there, especially since I have kept myself in survival mode for so long. It's quite a difficult transition for me to make, one that makes me feel like I will lose everything I need to survive. But what is absolutely clear is if I want any shot at happiness, there is no sidestepping this need for balancing this and being there and holding space and contributing in any which way my partner or the person across from me might require emotionally. And a failure to do that would only and has only resulted in misery for all parties involved. So yes, ironically, I still believe what I said. There is no room to mourn what is missing when you are faced forward and leaning towards what is to be. A warrior has absolutely no margin for error when it is time for war. But at the same time, he must recognize not everything in life is a battlefield. Not everything requires your armor. Some things require the softest parts of you, the childlike parts of you. So while you can be a good man by just providing, to be a great man, it takes more than provision. It takes revision of your entire way of being, everything you were taught to be, and noticing, being open to the lessons in front of you, in the eyes of everyone you encounter, and what effect you are having on them, in the spirit of everyone you touch. They need you to be great. You need you to be great. Sometimes that's tender. Sometimes it's terrifying. I love you, family. Stay true always. I see you on the next show.